Hi, everybody. Welcome to Winsight Live. I'm Jon Springer of Winsight Grocery Business here in New York. I'm here, as always, with my talented colleagues, Kat Martin in Chicago of Winsight Grocery Business, Brett Dworsky of CSP, also in Chicago, and as always, the Phil
The
Lempert,
Phil. The Phil.
supermarket guru, Phil Lempert.
Maybe I'll change it to just be the Phil.
The Phil.
There's like The Rock, and who else is there?
The Donald.
No, forget it. I'll stick with supermarket guru.
All right, Phil. The I'll start this morning with another ridiculous story. I happened to notice this morning that the Pennsylvania-based supermarket company Wise Markets is found itself on Snopes page, where the guys are investigating whether they had banned employees from displaying the American flag over the 4th of July holiday. As you'll see by visiting, Snopes arose from some people kind of misunderstanding the company's uniform policy, leaving plenty of fires for the company to put out on social media. Another signal of how silly this whole thing has become. And over to you, Phil.
So I just want to remind our viewers, go onto the chat box if you want to add your insights, your comments, especially about this 4th of July thing on Snopes with Weiss Markets, which is absolutely absurd. So let me start there. Some good news to start, some great news. Publix has shared its initiative to support farmers and families across the Southeast has reached their next milestone. 2.5 months after launching, more than 5 million pounds of produce and 350,000 gallons of milk have been purchased and then donated to Feeding America. Food banks throughout the company's operating area. They've also expanded to support farmers in other states as the growing season moves north. In addition to purchasing produce from Florida farmers, Publix is now buying produce from farmers in Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and will add farmers from Tennessee and Virginia in the coming weeks. Good for Publix. I mean, they have really done a great job in helping Feeding America and helping farmers. And I think as we get away from COVID-19, and hopefully that's sooner than later, I think that these relationships that Publix and other retailers have formed directly with the farmers are going to stick. They're going to stay. The more farmers that I talk to, and we talk to farmers, once a week on Farm Food Facts, our other podcast, and they are just enjoying this relationship working directly with retailers, and it assures the retailers that they're going to be getting produce. That's terrific. Some bad news. Acosta just released its 8th COVID-19 grocery shopper research this morning, and here's some stats from it. The top line: the recession is adding stress for many shoppers, with 37% of them worse off financially than they were pre-pandemic, including 9% who are much worse off. Millennials are the hardest hit generation, with 43% saying that they're worse off. As the pandemic continues, shoppers are far more cautious than optimistic about the future. 64% looking ahead with caution, and only 24% looking ahead with optimism. Shoppers report product availability as their number one concern, social distancing at number two, low prices is number three, customer safety number four, and availability of promotions and deals, they're number five. 32% of shoppers are reporting consuming more vitamins and supplements. That's good news. While 21% are eating more natural, organic, or vegetarian foods. More good news. So, John, I remember years ago on the Today Show doing a story about in-store Muzak, if you would. That we had, I'm trying to remember, the editor of Good Housekeeping, John McCarter, would come over the loudspeaker with a Good Housekeeping tip, and then the rest was pre-programmed based on the day part. So in the morning, You'd go into the supermarket, people were in a rush to get to work, they'd play faster music. In the afternoon, when the stay-at-home moms were shopping, they'd play Barry Manilow, so you felt more romantic. You slowed down your shopping, you'd buy an extra bottle of wine, that big cut steak, and so on. And then on the weekends, because they want to get people out of the store as quickly as they can, again, they would speed up that music to get us to move a little faster. Give us an update. What's Kroger doing on in-store radio?
Yeah, it's an interesting topic, right? I've covered the industry for a long time. I've never really got into this, but I think my own interest in sort of retail playlists sort of bled through in the coverage here. I did a great interview with a gentleman from a company called Vibenomics, which is replacing the in-store radio provider at Kroger stores beginning later this month. And that was kind of a takeoff point for us to kind of talk about the whole issue of how that's done. A couple of things are different than from the Muzak days, I'd
Right.
say. One, everything is digitized, can be programmatic, and do those kinds of things now. Kroger's objectives in this are, one, to find a better and more effective way to deliver ads to their shoppers, which is what they're doing in any number of other ways, through their phones, through their website, everything else, right? Get those purchases going. Two, which is interesting, they want to emphasize the brand. And it raises the question of, what does the Kroger brand sound like? And as you probably know, they went through a lot of trouble last year to come up with a national branding campaign for the very first time.
Yep.
Kroger, not historically a company that talked a lot about itself, but now they're kind of getting themselves around this thing. And so I kind of pumped him for a little bit of information as to sort of what the Kroger brand would sound like. And, the answer, peppy, not too mellow, energetic. They want shoppers to feel good. He suggested that one song that came up, because we can't pin him to this, of course, but he said the Imagine Dragons song, which name I can't think of, We're on Top of the World, was sort of one of the points of inspiration that they were going to pursue with that. And then, finally, the other thing that you kind of don't think about is you got to get that advertising bit in there. You've got to get that branding bit in there. And you've got to be able to market to shoppers before they're in the checkout line and while they're in the store. That's a very short period of time, 18 minutes. One of the most common complaints that retail workers have are the playlists, because they're there for 8 hours or 6 hours, and the playlists are created for shoppers on 18-minute trips. So
Yeah.
they talked about all those challenges, and it's a new vendor for Kroger. It's part of a number of new vendors that they're bringing in. They also announced this week a new digital media or digital advertising partner that's going to review their sponsorships and other things. Again, with an eye on kind of keeping the Kroger brand and developing that alternative revenue stream that they talk so much about.
So, John, I don't know if he shared this or you had time to get into it with him, but when we look at their new ad campaign, and they've created all these cartoonish characters that are all over the store now and so on, do you think that they're going to give voices to those characters and have them doing something on it?
I'm not quite sure if they talk. I've seen some activations, some creative where they kind of they're like toys. They're like Playmobil guys.
Yep.
And so I think that part of the magic of it is the people can use their imaginations and whatever. And the artwork is illustrative of sort of what they're doing. But could they talk? Maybe.
Yeah, I wonder what they would sound like. So
that's your guess is as good as mine on that one. But I do know that their employees and so forth have been sharing on social media. They can get their own Krogies made up of them. And that's a way to kind of get their people involved in the things as well. And they're trying to have fun with it. We talked about this when they came out, and I shared their designs with a group of design freaks online who all had very strong opinions about it. And that's fascinating too. The whole idea, I think, of the supermarkets kind of branding themselves and trying to be who they say they want to be is a fascinating aspect of this business. I like covering.
Yeah, I agree with you. So Brett, let's switch over to C-stores for a minute. You've put together a great piece on food service and how retailers can strategize for post-pandemic food operations. And in your second paragraph, a number that shocked me, that as of late May, the industry is expected to lose $183 billion. Wow, that's a
Yeah.
huge number. And as we're talking about supermarkets making so much money during COVID-19, we're talking about C-stores losing 183 billion. So give us the uptick of what they need to do food service wise to recover some of that money.
Yeah, Phil. And just for reference, so that 183 billion as of late May, put together by our sister research firm Technomic. That's actually for U.S. food service in general. So
Okay.
C-store, restaurants,
Got it.
supermarkets, non-commercial, all the sectors combined, expected to lose 183 billion
Okay.
by the end of the year. And that was as of late May. So who knows what that number is now?
Yep.
But this piece I wrote for C-store specifically, and who knows, since there's so much carryover between the C-store and grocery world, there's probably some takeaways from grocery operators for this as well. But I put together this piece which just ran in the July issue of CSP Magazine, which is all about an entrance strategy for C-store operators. So obviously the pandemic has halted a lot of traditional convenience store food operations like roller grill, made to order food service. It's really altered that entire landscape. So an entrance strategy in terms of what can operators do now, so in X amount of months or whenever that time comes for their food programs to open back up, they're ready to hit the ground running and they're not trying to scramble as they're opening up, if that makes sense. And sorry, we're going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, so what's the number one thing that you think that they need to do?
So in terms of an entrance strategy, so prepping now for when things open back up so they can be ready. Something that I thought was really big and which folks told me that they're focusing on is revamping their menu. So Jessica Williams, who works for Food Forward Thinking, she's a C-store consultant. She brought some really good insights to the table with this, and it made me think from a different perspective. She said to trim down menus in C-stores tremendously. So only focus on the top sellers and items that operators think their consumers will want in a pandemic world. Really cut those items down, focus on those, and to really simplify and streamline those ordering processes with employees as well. It'll make things much more efficient in the kitchen. And Little General stores, which they're a chain out in West Virginia, they've actually started to do this as well. And I know I've spoken on this Facebook Live feed a handful of times of how during the pandemic, grocery items and kind of cold offerings have spiked in C stores during all this. And that was actually part of Little General's strategy. So they cut back during the pandemic on their self-serve programs, and they really focused a lot of their attention on sliced meats and cheeses and pastas, breads and salads, a lot of those grocery items. And they said they've been doing well. And they even told me that once the pandemic slows, they're going to have a lot of that attention focused on grocery.
Interesting. So, Kat, you're our drone specialist. What's going on in the world of drones these days?
Yeah, I don't think I'm the drone specialist, but Rouses Market partnered with Deuce Drones. They are going to run a test in their Mobile, Alabama store in the fall, where they are adding drone delivery. So Donnie Rouse, the CEO, said their customers could get their grocery orders within 30 minutes. So they'll be interesting to see how this plays out. It doesn't say how many drones are going to be in operation or even if there's going to be restriction on what customers can order. But, I think as we've seen, grocery delivery really pick up during the pandemic, this is kind of the next step for operators who are looking for that, last mile delivery option.
So,
Really, that kind of scares me a little bit with drones flying around, but.
Yeah, I wanted to make two comments about that. Number one, and this is horrible for me to say. I know it is, but I'm going to say it anyway. What a terrible name for a company, Deuce Drones. I mean, that's just dumb. But let me ask John and Brett, would you embrace a drone delivery from a supermarket, or does it scare you? And Kat, I don't know if you know the answer to this question. What's the limit on size of your grocery order? If I order what would be the equivalent of 3 bags of groceries, can a drone handle that, or does it have to be smaller?
Yeah, I don't know the answer. I do know the picture that they have of the drones. It doesn't look like it could hold much. Looked like it was a fairly small drone. Whether or not that's the one Rouses are going to be using, I don't know. But I don't know if we'd be able to order a 10-pound bag of potatoes. I don't know.
So that's one of the issues with drone delivery. I've spoken to some people in the industry who are very skeptical that this is actually going to be a realistic solution for grocery for many reasons. Among them, the grocery size is typically a order way too big for a drone. They're going to run into some of the same problems that self-driving cars are going to have in terms of whether the local authorities are going to allow that kind of traffic. Who knows if there's going to be an accident at some point? You figure there would be. Who knows how bad that's going to be? But I mean, all that said, it is emblematic of the creativity that retailers are needing to bring to bear on this issue of the last mile, because it's too expensive to do it on your own, and consumers want more convenient solutions, and that's one of them. So I could see them playing a small role in it, for the right kinds of orders in the right kinds of places. I know they're doing it successfully in China. Apparently, JD.com was talking about that, but I'm a little bit skeptical, and this is based on from what I hear from people in the industry, that this is going to be the solution for home delivery.
So before, Brett, I give you a chance to weigh in. So for me, it's probably ordering a tuna sub, and that's what a drone could deliver to me to the office. We have some comments coming in. Dave Foreman, I love this comment. Orwell is rolling over. He also adds air traffic control for drone deliveries. And from Hall's Sausage and Wholesale Meats, we can't wait to order from the Rouses drone. So, Hall's Sausage and Wholesale Meats, they want it. So, Brett, what do you think?
I kind of like it. I agree with everything that's been said. That kind of in the same realm of self-driving cars, there's gonna be some issues that arise with it, but for the most part, and especially during the pandemic, I mean, it takes out a lot of the human error. You get your food delivered by a non-human, which is brings some optimism regarding safety. Um, I guess the big issue would be, as you've all talked about, how much food can the drone actually hold at one time. So,
Yeah.
and kind of as you said, Phil, I'd kind of order it more for a meal compared to me going on my bi-monthly grocery trips. But I kind of like it.
Yeah, and I will say, to your point, there's been a lot of food deliveries that I've gotten over the past 3 months that have been delivered by non-humans. So, not drones, not robots, just non-humans. Hall's Sausage and Wholesale Meats also say we're in mobile. No, it's not mobile. Mobile. Thank you. Sorry, my southern thing just isn't kicking in here. And selling their stores. It's a fabulous social media marketing opportunity for us. Well, that's a great idea. to use social media to push your products to be delivered by drone from Rouses. Whoever's writing this from Hall Sausage and Wholesale Meats, you're smart. John, let's talk. And I'm surprised nobody really commented on my non-human comment. I'm
It's
disappointed.
just taking them a while. But
Yeah,
you
I
bring
guess
up a
so.
good point that the drone itself maybe could even be a good advertising vehicle, you know,
For sure.
Yeah.
or whatever. You see them flying around and you're like, oh, I can order from Rouses and get it drone dropped to my front door.
Yeah, so
People-
so on the wings you have to paint the Rouse's logo and on the body and stuff, and what would really freak me out is if it's voice activated, so somebody at Rouse's can actually communicate to me through the drone. So the drone comes to my doorstep and then it says, "Hey Phil, thanks for ordering." Totally freaked me out. John, back to reality. What's going on at Lidl these days?
Yeah, a second commissioned study from a university marketing professor,
Commissioned by who? Commissioned by who?
commissioned by Lidl,
Oh, of course. Okay.
of course. And this studied the pricing activity. It was interesting. Pricing activity at stores that were surrounding Lidl stores on Long Island, both before they opened and now. And it takes a little bit of explaining because Lidl had acquired a conventional chain there called Best Markets and has been gradually flipping those stores over to the Lidl brand. So and when they do that, they close the stores to remodel them and then reopen them. So that gave them an opportunity to look at the market with Best Market, the entire 8 competitors, including Lidl, what prices were. Again, late last year when those stores were closed and the Best Market stores, and then again early this year when they've reopened as Lidl, and what happened to the market. 47 items at 27 different stores, and you'll see that prices went up upon Best's closure slightly. They went down pretty precipitously upon Lidl's arrival. And, now they're saying this is offset the effects of inflation on Long Island. And to a degree, I guess it has, if you're looking at the 47 different items that they compared across brands. A couple of interesting points out of there. One was that the single retailer to drop their prices the most was Aldi, nearly 15%, and Aldi, Costco, Walmart, Lidl, all pretty much at parity in pricing. King Cullen, Stop and Shop, Target, BJ's Wholesale were the other ones in the study, a little bit higher. For Lidl, this is always good news because they announced this thing while they've got 4 stores open that were former Best Markets, and they've got at least 20 more to come. So that's kind of broadcasting to the local people that Lidl's going to bring good prices to everybody, and that's going to get their name out there. They're a strong believer in sort of the people speaking for them. And I think that, these kinds of studies, which, I don't want to say they're not legitimate at all. They are following what the prices are, sort of shows they're bringing more price competition to the places that they go.
So I'm disappointed in Best Market going out. I frequent the Best Market in West Hampton on Long Island, and I thought it was a terrific store. I thought that their takeout food, their deli, their prepared food was exceptional. I thought that their produce was exceptional, but also their big stores. So, and John, I don't know if you know this, but what has Lidl done? Have they cut the store in half, or are they filling up the entire store?
As far as I can tell, the ones I've been in were pretty much the same footprint as the store it was before. Maybe a little bit less, but that was initially a Pathmark. The one that I was in West Babylon was a Pathmark, then it became a Best Market. Now it's a Lidl. Right. It's interesting. There's a Best Market in my neighborhood right here in Queens that we've been going to fairly often, and you can tell walking into that store, this store's been battered by the idea that you can't present the kind of fresh food the way that they would like to. But and I was thinking about this when Brett was talking about earlier, the legal model of doing things, which they do because it's efficient.
Yep.
Their bakery kind of semi self-service. It's on the other side of glass. They experimented in West Babylon with a deli that was semi self-service. The guy cuts it and then puts it in wraps and then puts it in. That's the way a lot of food retailers are going to have to go.
Yeah.
And it amazes me over and over and over again how we find these small discount stores are wield this influence that is way beyond how big a slice of the market they actually can comprise. I mourn the a little bit of the food service theater going away from Best Market. They did do a nice job, and they really kind of built their whole model around that. And the legal model couldn't be any different. The employees that used to be specialists in delis are now generalists who do everything, and they'll tell you that it's helpful for the ones who like to make the transition, because they can bring their skills doing pickles to jarred pickles and make the grocery items look fresh, and the displays and that kind of thing. So it's interesting, and it does say a lot about where the industry's going, I think.
And also I love their sushi. I thought it was fabulous.
Mhm.
So we're going to close with one last question from Dave. So Phil, how did you get a non-human delivery? Dave, it was simple. The person from the delivery service didn't look, act, whatever human. It's that simple. So thanks for joining us today on Winsight Live. Again, just a reminder that all of our episodes are on Winsight Grocery Business, both on the website as well as on Facebook Live and on Supermarket Guru website and Facebook Live. And we will be back here on Tuesday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. Wear a mask. What else can we say? So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on Tuesday.